The Tales of the TMNT TV show is on Paramount Plus now, and I just watched the second episode, Mikey Does the Right Thing. This series takes place in the Mutant Mayhem universe, and this series is a bridge to the sequel film. Right off the bat, I like this episode a lot more than the first episode. It was a lot more fun and interesting. It was another buddy comedy, kind of team-up solo turtle episode. This episode focuses on Michelangelo, voiced by Shaman Brown Jr. His voice has really grown on me. It stuck out when I first heard it from Mutant Mayhem, but now I like it. I like this version of Michelangelo. Shaman Brown Jr. does a good job. Michelangelo is funny. And Pete Davidson is good as Rod. He's funny too and high energy. I like Rod's character. And Rod and Michelangelo have chemistry. I didn't like Leo and April's episode. I don't like this version of April. Each episode has a small cast, probably to save money. It's very streamlined, very efficient, but it comes across as a little cheap sometimes. But just like the animation, it feels spread a little too thin. I like the morals in this show. Mikey does the right thing. That's good. That's a good message. You shouldn't casually inject your blood into other people. The designs are expressive, lots of fluid detail. It seems like they spent a lot of time on zany expressions, very rubbery. There's great keyframes, but the animation is just too jerky for me. I just wish the show wasn't so choppy. The screenshots look cool, but in motion, it's just not for me. It's almost like a strobe effect. It's a little tedious to watch. It's almost as if they ran out of money halfway through production or something, like the scope of the project was changed by management or executives. It feels like the show has 15 frames per second instead of 30 frames per second. I know it's a style choice, I know they did it on purpose, but I'm just not fond of it, and I wish it wasn't used throughout every episode all the time. I think it's better when it's used occasionally, like the comic book hand-drawn on paper effect. This seems to be the main complaint from people, that the show's animation makes it almost unwatchable. The low frames per second, the frame skip, frame stutter effect, it's constant. It's better when it's used sparingly. I wish I could watch this show at 1.25 speed to increase the frames per second and smooth it out. But I do like the turtles' designs and the sketchy hand-drawn art style. I love all the little scribbles, and the line boil effect they do sometimes is great. I really like the way they depict light in this show. And I know it's going to sound weird, but I like the turtles' necks in this show. They have skinny necks with a black line for a shadow. It makes the turtles look young, like they're still developing and growing into their shells. I like how the turtles' heads look in profile also. The show has good designs. The art style is cool. The sketchy, hand-drawn effect is neat. And it works really well in the backgrounds. The background art is beautiful. I love the brushstroke look of all the nature elements. I also like the way the cityscapes look. It's a really striking design. It's visually pleasing. But one thing I don't like, the show has the humor and kind of the feel of Rise of the TMNT, and it doesn't really mesh with the show. It's like a lot of the same people worked on Rise, worked on this show too. I'm not sure if they did, but it feels like they could have. It almost feels like they just swapped out the turtle designs and continued producing the same show. The human extras, the background characters, they look like characters from Rise of the TMNT. Rise of the TMNT had the brushstroke line style sometimes too. I just don't know if the audience appreciates the artistic brushstrokes as much as the people making the show. I don't find the robots to be that cool, the Mechazoids. Why aren't they mousers? They growl too much and they're kind of a boring enemy. Also, they have no voice. They're voiceless. This might be another cost-cutting measure to have a voiceless enemy. I thought all the animals looked great, really well drawn, really interesting designs. The people making the show are great at drawing. The show is a little formulaic, but this episode was fun. It was a lot better than the first episode. Rod and Mikey are both kind of goofy, dopey characters, so this episode is like a fun buddy comedy instead of episode 1 with April and Leo being a romantic comedy to an extent. I enjoyed this episode a lot more than the first episode. I was going to stop watching if I didn't like this episode, but it was okay. It showed a little promise. The people making the show are talented. It's undeniable, but sometimes things just don't come together, or they don't appeal to everyone in the same way. Tales of the TMNT is rough around the edges. It feels unfinished. It's a chore to watch. The story is a weak part of the show for me, and so's the overall tone. And the frame stutter animation is jarring, and it's going to be a turnoff to many people. It already has been a turnoff to many people. But I do think the sketchy hand-drawn art style is very fascinating. I gave the first episode 5 stars out of 10, but I think I would give this episode 6 stars out of 10. That might be the ceiling for this show, and I'm also grading on a curve. I'm grading this show for what it is, not against other shows. But keep in mind, I am a crazy guy that pretends to be a Ninja Turtle on the internet. Like the video and subscribe, leave a comment. Did you like this episode? Is the show growing on you? Did you not like it? Have you already checked out? Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks for watching.